The Eagles appear to be moving forward with Jalen Hurts as their franchise quarterback, trading down from 6 to 12 in the first round of next week's draft. Should be taking over that starting role, and he's changing numbers as well. Wore 2 last season, going to wear 1 this upcoming season. We're going to hear from both the head coach and the GM who spoke earlier today. The head coach talking about how the starting job is still open. The GM, Howie Roseman, on why they traded down in the first round.
Well, the reason we traded back from 6 to 12 was because flexibility creates opportunity. Like we talked about when we had our last media opportunity, we're going to evaluate every player and nothing is off the table.
We didn't get an answer on Hurts. Or maybe Nick can answer that.
Yeah, I mean, to name any starters at this particular time, we've been working with these guys for 2 days. Right? We've been working with these guys for 2 days. My biggest thing is competition. Again, we've talked a little bit about my core values. It's my second core value. It's this team's second core value. Competition's a huge thing, and we're going to have competition at every position.
And that's what head coaches normally say, especially first-year head coaches. And a second-year quarterback here in Jalen Hurts, who started the last 4 games of the season, went 1-3. Played at times better than Carson Wentz did earlier on in the season, but did not wow anybody on a regular basis. All right, let's bring in our draft analyst, Ryan Wilson, taking us inside the Eagles' war room a week ahead of the draft. You just heard what Sirianni, the new head coach, and Roseman, the GM, had to say. They used that 53rd overall pick on Hurts last season. In your opinion, I mean, is it Hurts' job moving forward all season?
I understand what Nick Sirianni's saying, so I went and scrambled and double-checked the roster there. So it's Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, and the other quarterback is Joe Flacco. Mm-hmm. So unless something crazy happens where Joe Flacco gets a time machine and once again becomes elite, I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to lose the job to Joe Flacco. Now, the other reading between the lines thing you could do here is that maybe Howie Roseman is suggesting, with all the flexibility and opportunity that came from moving from 12 to 6 and 6 to 12, is that perhaps the quarterback's still in the mix? I don't think it is. It certainly doesn't feel like it is. So I think this is Jalen Hurts' job without question. Sirianni's trying to create competition, and I understand that as a first-year head coach. And it's going to be interesting to see how Sirianni, the kind of success he's able to have, given how things ended with Doug Peterson. But I think he's saying all the right things in a press conference where you don't want to come out in late April and say Jalen Hurts is our guy, and then something happens, because then you're answering questions about that. But I think as we sit here, the reality is Joe Flacco's the backup. If they draft a quarterback at some point in the draft, he will be the backup as well. And Jalen Hurts, it will be his job to lose, and they're going to give him every opportunity to succeed by trying to put players around him on that offense.
How do you feel they did in free agency? They lost Jalen Mills to the Pats, but they added a couple guys, linebacker Eric Wilson and safety Anthony Harris.
Yeah, they didn't do a whole bunch. Anthony Harris is actually a great get. That secondary had a lot of needs for sure, but they lost a lot of players. They lost a lot of players on a really bad team. We saw how that team struggled down the stretch. Obviously, some of that had to do with the injuries along the offensive line. Some of those players will certainly be healthy. A lot of that had to do with the struggles that Carson Wentz had as a result, in part, of those injuries along the offensive line. Carson Wentz is obviously gone now. We talked about the quarterback situation. But the defense has to get a lot better, and they've made incremental moves. So they're going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the draft, which comes next week, of course. But the Anthony Harris signing is the one that stands out to me. But that doesn't magically fix everything that's wrong with this organization in terms of the 53-man roster.
Is quarterback a need at all in this draft? I mean, take a flyer on somebody late, maybe day 2 or day 3. Is that one of the needs in your opinion?
Yeah, day 3, you can certainly do that. My 7-round mock draft, which came out Monday, I had them taking Jamie Newman out of Wake Forest on day 3. And he's a developmental player that is similar in terms of the athleticism, arm strength, the way he plays, as what we saw Jalen Hurts was capable of doing last year. But it's not a primary need, only because if they're rolling with Jalen Hurts, and it sounds like they are, even though Nick Sirianni sort of didn't commit to that, they traded down to 12, so they're not going to take a quarterback. So we see the list of needs here: wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback, and then at the bottom there, quarterback and offensive line. Again, the offensive line, those guys need to get healthy, but the wide receiver is the biggest one for me, along with cornerback, where the cupboard is bare if you're looking at that secondary after the Anthony Harris sign that we've already talked about.
And the options at 12, you had them taking DeVonta Smith in your latest mock. Do they need to target a wide receiver there, or could they look somewhere else depending on how the board lays out?
I love the idea of DeVonta Smith, the wide receiver, going there from Alabama because, again, they need help at wide receiver. Jalen Reagor, last year's first-round pick, they took him over Justin Jefferson. We know that now. That wasn't a great move. But here's the thing. I just talked about the cornerbacks. Here are the cornerbacks that have any experience that are good players. Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox. That's it. So unless you're willing to play with two cornerbacks for the entire season, you're going to have to do something there. So should a Patrick Surtain, should a J.C. Horn be there at 12, I think the Eagles are going to think long and hard about trying to make that happen because they need help desperately at cornerback. Yes, they need to figure out the wide receiver position, but it's not an immediate need. That would be more of a gift for Jalen Hurts with the DeVonta Smith draft pick there. But I feel like if we talked about J.C. Horn, we talked about Patrick Surtain, even Caleb Farley might be in the conversation. We have the concerns about the back injury, of course, and maybe he slips. But before the back procedure a few weeks ago, he was my #1 cornerback, and now he's down to #4 only because of the back procedure. So there'll be options there. We heard Howie Roseman, talked about the flexibility. They could trade down if they wanted to and even get a cornerback there later in the first round.
Now, you mentioned Jamie Newman, the quarterback, maybe going day 3 to a team like the Eagles. How about day 2, players to target in rounds 2 and 3?
Well, I talked about linebacker as a need. Jamin Davis could be there at the top of round 2. He's one of Pete Prisco's favorite players, the linebacker out of Kentucky. He was on his better than team. He's an option there. I've talked about the cornerback position. If you don't take one in round 1, perhaps in round 2 or 3, you could target someone like Paulson Adebo out of Stanford. He opted out last year. Tested really well. Had some really good 2019 tape. Also had some moments where you question whether he should have played in 2020 if that had worked out. And then finally, Dylan Radins, the offensive tackle out of North Dakota State. He protected Trey Lance the last few years. He can play tackle. He can play guard. Provide you some versatility on that offensive line. That, when healthy, is a good offensive line. The issue is they have not been able to stay healthy at all 5 positions, over the course of the last few years.
All right, kind of a rebuilding effort for the Philadelphia Eagles heading into Nick Sirianni's first season. Ryan Wilson detailing the war room here 8 days out from the first round of the NFL draft. Taking a look at the odds for the Eagles heading into the season, and they are pretty long odds. Plus 425 to win the NFC East, plus 280 to make the postseason. Likely going to miss the playoffs with a regular season win total at 7. And up next, we're going to hit the Washington war room. They went out and they got Ryan Fitzpatrick. They love their backup, Taylor Heineke. So why might they be looking to trade up for a quarterback next week?
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.